This is the story of several characters living on Jeju Island. It starts very early, with this guy getting up to get ready to go to work. He is Jeong-jun, a ship captain. On the other hand, we see this woman preparing something to eat before going to work. She is Yoon-hae and she is the owner of a successful fishmonger's shop. She leaves for work. On the way, she runs into Jeong and gives him some breakfast. Later, we see that they go to a fish auction. The fish don't look very good today. So Yoon asks him if they should buy frozen fish, to which he refuses, and she tells him to do whatever he wants. The auction takes place and Jeong takes the first batch of fish. The second batch ends up being taken by Yoon, so then we see how they take all the fish to her shop. After that, we see this group of old ladies who are waiting to be picked up to go to work. Who picks them up is this girl, whose name is Lee Young-ok. This old lady complains to her for being late, and what do they do for a living? You might ask. Well, we'll see. They are on the boat, where the captain is Jeong. Young greets him, but he seems to just ignore her. Then she greets another boat passing by them. This old woman complains that Young goes around talking to every man she sees, so she tells this other one, Chun-hui, that she should be kicked off the boat. After that, Jeong asks this guy what he would think if he flirted with Young, to which he replies that it's only okay if it's for fun, since she flirts with everyone. After that, we see the work of the old ladies and Young diving for a dive. In the fish market, many customers come to buy. Yoon notices that there is a woman who is touching the fish too much, and not only that, but she wants to buy it for a much lower price. Seeing Yoon's rude character, the woman decides to pay a little more, but she offers her a 2-for-1. After that, we go to Seoul, because there we meet this man, Choi Han-soo, director of the SS Bank. He is handing out flyers to get more customers, but not everyone seems interested. He tries everything, even putting flyers on the doors of the flats. Later in his office, he gets a call, and when he is about to answer it, he bumps his foot. The caller is Hyung-sik. Han-soo asks him if he has asked his wife. By this he means that Han borrowed money from him. Hyung tried to convince her that Han is trustworthy, but it didn't work. Hyung tells him that if he can get the money, he should invest it in O-ring electronics, as he assures her that if he does, he will get double the profit. After that, we see that Han broke a nail with the blow earlier, so he hangs up the call and tries to remove the nail. But it is very painful. On the other hand, we see that in the bank premises there is a customer complaining that he has lost his money. This guy tries to tell him that he was warned at the beginning that the product he invested in was a high-risk one, but the customer complains that he was never told that. In the middle of the argument, Han appears limping to calm the client and tells him to talk in private to solve the problem. The client keeps complaining, then the guy from before also gets angry and starts saying things to the client, which makes him get angry and they start to fight. They manage to separate them as Han holds the client, but he steps on his foot right where he has the wound. What a day. Han takes the client to the office to talk. There he asks him to calm down, as he must calm down, because he knows him and knows that he must be careful with the tension, so he tells him to wait there while he goes to get him some tea. The client is very angry, but Han will explain everything. He leaves to get the tea, and on the way, he tells the employee from before that he must calm down. Then he tells them that they can go back home. Distressed, the employee helps him with the drink. Han tells him to make a very hot tea for the customer, so hot that it burns and he cannot drink it, then asks Han what has happened to his finger. The employee recognizes his mistake and realizes that he should have calmed down instead of fighting with the customer. Then we realize that Han is about to leave the Seoul headquarters. Indeed, they gave the client a very hot tea. He is angry because he lost a lot of money with the bank overnight, so he demands an explanation. Han understands his anger, so he will tell him what he thinks happened. The product the client invested in matures in 2 days, so instead of extending it, he should invest in something else. So he offers him to switch to a safer guarantee fund. It is a new product, and if he invests, the client would be the first one to do so. Han goes to his house, where we see some pictures of his family. While he cooks, he listens to his brother on the phone. He complains that Han is the oldest brother and doesn't even help his mother. Han wants to talk to his mother, as he is being transferred to Jeju soon, but his brother refuses and won't let him talk to his mother. We learn that Han has a daughter named Bo Ram. She is a golfer and lives with her mother in the United States. Han watches her on television. He has big plans for her to be a successful golfer. However, not everything is rosy, because moments later, he receives a call from his wife, Mai Jin. Han starts by telling her that he has raised all the money he has, $67,000. Mai Jin reproaches him that such a small amount will not even be enough for 5 months. It happens that golf is not cheap at all and they have problems to reach Bo Ram's goal. Mai Jin tells Han that they should stop trying, and that's it. Since Bo Ram is not even in the top 50, Han tells her that there are many coaches interested in her. But Mai Jin is tired. They have given everything and she doesn't want to stay in the United States anymore. Han mentions a coach named Steve. At that time, Mai Jin breaks down as she doesn't want to ask anyone else for money. They are in a very bad situation. Han has even sold the house to make Bo Ram a successful golfer, but the golf lessons cost $15,000 a month. It is impossible for them to pay such an amount, and they don't even have a house. Mi-jin tells Han that even if he retires, they can't afford that, and if they don't make it, they will be left on the street. Han is sure that his daughter is their last hope, so he asks Mi-jin to hold on a little longer while he gets the money. They have been in the United States for 7 years, but Han is very sure that Bo-ram doesn't want to leave golf because it is everything to her, so he doesn't want to give up. After that, we see that Han finally returns to his hometown, where he prepares his new home. After that, when he makes himself a coffee and looks out the window, he notices that there is a commotion downstairs. There was an accident and there are people arguing, and one of the people involved is Yoon, who complains that the guy crashed into her on purpose. The two are arguing to see who is right, until this guy arrives to separate them. He is in Gwon. When everything seemed to be settled, the guy insults them and Yoon gets angry, as does Gwon, who takes off his shirt to intimidate the guy. Things get heated and the guy throws a punch, which Gwon dodges but ends up hitting Ho-sik. The one who was having fun was Han, who saw how everyone was fighting and it was a riot. The one who wasn't amused was this girl, Young-ju, whose father is Ho-sik, and she was embarrassed. The street is a complete mess because of these bickering fools. Han mentions that they are still the same as they were before, they haven't changed at all. From there we go to meet and have a little look at this man, Dong-seok. He is a street vendor. We see that he falls asleep in the car, so the other drivers wake him up to get him out of the way. After that, we see how he records his voice to promote his products as he is driving. There is everything: food, clothes, tools. After that, we see Gwon and Ho-sik at their respective jobs. One works in a butcher shop and the other an ice maker. Further on, we see that in the city traffic is at a standstill. The drivers complain about it, while Han tries to see what is happening. Then we see that Yoon's truck is blocking the road. Han gets out to see what is happening. The moment he gets out of the car, Yoon recognizes him immediately. She is very surprised to see him. Han asks her to move the truck, but she is just excited to see him again. They haven't seen each other for 20 years. Saddened, Han tells her he will call her in a few days, but she must move out of the way. She asks him if he is there on holiday or if he will return to Seoul soon. Then she gives him her phone number, but in order not to waste any more time, Han takes a picture of the truck as her number is there too. After this, Han apologizes to the other drivers and goes back to the car. Yoon tries to go back to talk to him, but he had already left. On the other hand, we see that Han is finally introduced at the SS Bank headquarters. The one in charge of introducing him to the others is Myung-bo. He is the manager of this branch and also already knows Han, as they were classmates. Han now has the position of branch manager. While he is in the office, Myung comes in with some documents. They are the VIP clients of the bank. Han tells him that even though they know each other, he prefers that they don't talk to each other in the bank. Then we see that most of the VIP clients are people who work in the market and owners of buildings in the center. They are people who are rich, because selling there is easier than in Seoul. As Han reviews the documents, he recognizes that these are people with a lot of money, but it doesn't take him long to be surprised because among the VIP clients was Yoon. Myung explains that she has 129 million won in cash. Han is surprised and wonders if this is the same Yoon he knows. Then Myung tells him that they should go out to greet the clients. So they both go out to greet the customers. Han introduces himself to those he doesn't know. Myung tells Han that the 5 shops he just saw are owned by Yoon. She makes over 15 million a month. She sells fish there, and in Jeju, she makes a lot of money a year. Han asks if Yoon works with her husband, to which Myung tells him that no one dares to marry her because she is scared. Myung jokes with him that Yoon is still single because she has not forgotten him. Yoon is not there because she delivers fish to many supermarkets. And Myung tells him that Yoon owns the cafeteria in front of Han's house, then mentions that if she did not have to send money to her brothers, she would have a building in downtown Sigwipo and another one in Jeju. Han asks him about Gwon and Ho-sik. Myung replies that the pair are penniless and could barely start a business with a loan. As for Yoon, all she does with the money is put it in the bank without investing in anything. So Myung invites Han to a party on Friday with the aim of convincing Yoon to invest in something. Myung tells him that they will soon go to see a guy whose daughter also plays golf in the US as Bo-ram. But before that, Han goes on a little trip with some gifts, as he is going to see his family. They have a huge farm where Han-suk, his sister, works. She asks him if he has been to see Mom. He replies that he has been too busy, but he had dinner with her last month. She then asks him about his wife and whether she is still in the United States. Han replies that Bo-ram has to continue studying. So when she finishes her studies, Han promises to pay more attention to his mother, his sister, and his brother Han-yeon. Han-suk reproaches him for selling his house so that Bo-ram could play golf, and makes it clear that his studying in Seoul was a great sacrifice for the family. While she and Han-yeon barely graduated, and yet she is angry that Han is unable to take care of his mother. In the evening, Han is at home having dinner until he picks up the phone to ask Han-suk to borrow a lot of money, embarrassed. And after seeing the message for a few seconds, he decides not to send anything. Han doesn't know what to do. In itself, the fact that he has been transferred is a move by the bank to force him to retire. Moments later, Han begins to watch the tournament where Bo-ram is participating. Then, he receives a message from Yoon, who has already heard that he has returned to Jeju, so she asks him if he will go to the party on Friday, as she wants to see her first love again. Yes, her first love. Han looks out of the window to see Yoon's cafeteria, then begins to wonder what he has done with his life, since he doesn't have a single building. All he has done is raise Bo-ran. However, it is obvious that Han is very envious of her, and speaking of Yoon, let's go to her, because she goes to talk to Young Ok to tell her how she and Han knew each other. Now we will see why she refers to Han as her first love. So we are in a flashback to many years ago, this girl who enters the bus with this little pig. It is Yoon. Some complain about the bad smell, while other students make fun of her. Yoon has this pig to sell to go on the school trip. On the other hand, this boy here is Han, who like Yoon, does not come from a rich family, but instead of selling a pig, he sells vegetable product. The students were bullying both of them. Then this girl tells Yoon that it will be a waste to sell that pig, to which she very respectfully and friendly tells her the B word. The girl gets angry and stands up with intentions of hitting Yoon, but Han intervenes to tell her to sit down, while the other students were telling her to get up and hit Yoon. They wanted to provoke a fight, and Han, seeing that she was being picked on, stands up to put this fool and the other girl in their place. But the story doesn't end there, because Yoon tells Young Ok that in the end, they went on an excursion to Mokpo. On said excursion, Yoon approached Han to ask him why he is away from everyone. Yoon wastes no time and asks him if he is dating another girl, and if he has kissed her. He replies that they broke up. Yoon asks him how it feels to kiss, and seeing that Han looked like a delinquent, she asks him if he ever slept with his ex, and ends up saying that she would understand that he would never date an ugly girl like her. Han starts to chuckle. Yoon sits down next to him and asks him to kiss to break the ice. Han refuses, as Yoon is a good girl and tells her that they should leave because the break is over, but Yoon proposes to him and moments later steals a kiss. Back to the present. Both Yoon and Young Ok laugh at this story. Moments later, Jeong sits down next to them. Yoon puts it in context by saying that she is talking about her first love. But the story between the two doesn't end there, because now we see how young Yoon was chasing a girl called Mai Ran, as she found out what happened between the two and threatened to go and tell everyone. Soon after, Mai Ran arrives where Han was and without wasting time interrupts him and asks him if it's true that he kissed Yoon. Yoon arrives shortly after to tell Mai Ran to shut up, but she insists to Han and asks him if he forced Yoon to kiss. Han approaches Yoon and asks her if it is true that he kissed her by force. Yoon's face was terrified, but changes completely when she hears Han say that he is sure that she enjoyed the kiss too, to the point where Yoon faints. Yoon and Young Ok were laughing their heads off at the story, this in addition to the alcohol in between, while Jeong was also enjoying the story. And so they both continued to laugh and drink, while Han was looking out the window thinking about how terrible his life is right now. We go to 7 years before. Dong Seok was on a date with a girl named Min Seon-ae. He took her to see the sea in the car. Both were excited and enjoyed the trip while Dong was driving around like he was Toretto. Both were on the beach until sunrise having fun like kids. At one point, they both sit on the car. She mentions that she is being all wonderful. At that moment, it occurs to Dong to kiss her. This changed the atmosphere completely, as Seon-ae didn't like it at all, so she takes her phone to call a taxi to go back to Seoul. Dong takes the phone from her and tells her that he will take her himself. On the way back to Seoul, Dong complains and asks her why she agreed to go out with him in the first place. She replies that she just wanted to see the sea. He gets angry, because from his point of view, a man and a woman wouldn't go that far just to see the sea. Dong asks her not to treat him as if he were her friend, because they are not friends at all, they are man and woman. Dong is sure that Seon has feelings for him because they have always gone out partying, but she has absolutely no feelings for him. At that moment, Dong stopped the car feeling slighted. As we know, he is now a street vendor, so we see him doing his job, selling things to the old ladies in the village. Everything could be going as usual and being an ordinary day, until he notices that one of the old ladies doesn't want to buy anything from him. After that, he finds out from this lady that they have been buying from another truck. Dong was quick to notice that almost everyone bought things from the other truck. Then he asked them all if they would buy something from him, to which they said another day. Dong insisted, as he had their favorite things, but when he saw that it didn't work out, he got angry and asked the old women to go away and continue shopping at the other stall. Dong is offended because he thought they would be waiting for him as usual. He always goes there across the sea to sell them things even though he doesn't earn that much. Angry, he tells them that he is going to throw away everything he had to sell them. Then he starts to collect his things, while the old women asked him to calm down because they were going to buy. Feeling betrayed, Dong leaves and threatens not to come back anymore. But from there we go to a hairdresser's, where Yoon is getting ready for the upcoming party. Then they receive a message from her brother, showing her a luxurious flat. She calls him to find out what he wants. He tells her that he wants to buy that flat. She gets angry, as it is a very expensive one and she knows that her brother can't afford something like that. She asks him to look for a smaller one. When she seems to have calmed down, she calls him again to tell him that she earns her money by working hard and he cannot dispose of it as if it were his own. She asks her brother to grow up. The hairdresser tells Yoon to relax and stop fighting. But this doesn't work because she keeps complaining to her brother. This time she calls him to remind him that it was her who paid for his wedding. While she is still living with her parents in a small house, she ends up telling him not to be so inconsiderate. Meanwhile, Han was still thinking about whether to ask Han Suk for money or not. He modifies the message several times as well as the amount of money, besides promising to pay it back with interest, until he finally decides to send the message. After that, he and Mayung meet with this guy, the owner of the gas stations I mentioned before. Mayung doesn't miss the opportunity to tell him that Han's daughter also plays golf in the United States, and he already knows her since they have competed in an international tournament. Han says goodbye to the guy several times, and when he leaves, he asks Myung if Han's salary is low and if so, how he is going to support his daughter with nothing. He knows things. Since the Korean community in America is small, Bo-ram's mother has a bad reputation. After that, we see Han running out because it's time for the party. Myung tells him to hurry up, as it's not just a party, but a business opportunity, while talking to Han. Myung enters the bathroom and meets Gwon, who upon finding out that it was Han who was on the call, takes the phone from Myung to talk to him and tell him to hurry up and get there. Doubtful, Gwon asks Myung if Han will come, to which he says yes, as he always keeps his word. Gwon mentions that when Han took his mother to Seoul, he came at night because he didn't want to see any of them. He is angry that they took care of Han's mother as if she was theirs, but he didn't even thank them. Things get complicated when Ho-sik enters the bathroom and starts arguing with Gwon. Myung tries to stop them from fighting. Gwon gets in Ho-sik's face that it was him who helped him with his ice business. Ho-sik responds by saying that at least his daughter is smarter than Gwon's son. Gwon takes a bucket of water and throws it on Ho-sik. Then we see that Yoon was in one of the bathrooms and comes out to calm them down. The two of them used to get along well, but just now they hate each other. When Yoon leaves, Myung asks Ho-sik why he always acts that way when he sees Gwon. He mentions that he has a reason for it, although he doesn't say anything to Myung. The one who does say something is the guy from before, as he explains why Bo-ram's mother does not have a good reputation. It turns out that Bo-ram is not doing well because he has a problem with her wrists, and My-jin has a close relationship with some sponsors. The thing is that she has borrowed money from them and has not paid them back. When Myung was about to return to the party, he runs into his wife, who tells him to come home soon. She won't stay at the party because she has a stomachache. But Myung celebrates. Later, everyone encourages Yoon to sing karaoke, so she does. Everyone starts dancing and singing along. Moments later, Han finally arrives. Gwon starts shouting that Han has arrived and gives him the microphone to sing along with Yoon. He at first refuses, but she insists. So he can't refuse and ends up singing too. Soon after, Dong also arrives and joins the party. Although no one told him anything, somehow he always finds out when they go out. They all enjoy the party drinking and singing until they finally finish and leave. Then we see Yoon complaining because these jerks want to make Han pay for everything. Yoon tells them to pay together or she will, but Gwon shows up shortly after, telling them that he has stolen Han's card and paid for everything. Yoon gets angry, but Gwon justifies his action by saying that Han is supposed to be a branch manager, so he assumes he has a lot of money. Gwon tells Yoon that now he understands why she is single, to which she replies that she would rather be single than divorced like him. When Yoon leaves, Ho-sik mocks him. Gwon replies that it is better to be divorced than for his wife to leave home. Dong intervenes, but not to stop them from fighting, but to make them do it right. They both start to fight, until Jeong arrives to separate them. Meanwhile, Yoon was in the bathroom waiting for Han to come out. Myung mentions that the total that Gwon ended up paying with Han's card was almost 2 million. Han is not feeling well, he is too drunk and vomiting. On the other hand, we see that Yeonju and Young Hyun leave to go to their parents' house. They like each other. Young even kisses her. Jeong was not only in charge of stopping the fight, he was also given the task of taking all the drunks home, starting with Gwon, who hits his son because he thinks Young talked to him badly while drunk. Gwon then complains that Young doesn't greet him properly, and as for her, she just asks Ho-sik to walk straight, as she doesn't intend to take him. Finally, Jeong takes Dong, but after all, seeing him so tired, he decides to let him sleep in his car, so he puts a jacket as a pillow and tucks him in. After that, he decides to go to see Young. She was in her shop talking to a guy, Captain B. Jeong interrupts them to tell Young that he will help her close, but B tries to chase him away, which doesn't help, as Jeong stays the same, so B ends up leaving. Jeong starts to help her close. She asks him why he's being so nice, and if that's because he has feelings for her. Young tells him that if that's the case, she doesn't recommend it. But Jeong replies that it's up to him, so Young assumes that he does have feelings for her. But at that moment, Young receives a message saying I miss you, so she leaves and leaves Jeong closing. Meanwhile, we see Yoon taking care of Han, buying some medicine for his drunkenness. He keeps laughing, this because Yoon reminded him of the time they kissed. He also remembers the day she passed out and told him she thought he was adorable. She asks him why they didn't go out if he thought she was so adorable. Han asks her why she is still single until now. She replies that there are no decent men. Yoon offers to drive him home, so she gets in the car. At that moment, Han gets a message from his sister. She complains about the fact that he is asking for money. She graduated from high school and worked in a factory for his tuition, while he did nothing in return and can't even support his mother. She tells him that it is better for him to tell his wife and daughter to come back instead of going around asking for money. Yoon notices that Han lives in front of her cafeteria. She also notices Han's annoyed face, who moments later asks Yoon where she is going. She has to go to the auction soon, so Han wants to accompany her as he thinks he won't be able to sleep. She ends up agreeing, so we head to the auction, where Han looks at the high amounts of money being handled. This guy asks Yoon if Han is her husband. to which she replies not to be gossipy. After that, Han asks her where she is going now. She replies that she has to make a delivery to Jeong's brother. After that, they start to remember good times. Before, they didn't hesitate a single moment to skip school to go to the beach in uniform and bathe until dawn. Yoon happily recalls those moments. Then Han asks her what he was like back then. She says he was very angry, but his smile was warm and radiant. And he was full of energy. Han says he sometimes hated being poor, but he laughed a lot with them, and he was not tired and bored with life as he is now. Yoon tells him that from her point of view, he is still the same person as before, remembering old times, and as if he has the past right in front of him, Han approaches the beach, where he sees his younger self swimming excitedly, so he doesn't think twice before taking off his jacket and jumping into the water. Yoon tells him that he is old and might get sick. Yoon tells him that she envies him. While in the water, Han whispers to her to lend him money, but she doesn't listen to his question and just tells him to get out of the water. Then he changes his question and tells her to go on a trip to Mokpo like on that excursion. She says that only if the two of them go, she accepts. Later, Han wakes up after resting. He has a missed call from Mai Jin, and then Bo Ram sends him a message. She tells him that she wants to quit golf. So Han wastes no time and calls her immediately to ask for an explanation. He tells her that she has been playing golf for 13 years and that she herself had said that golf was her life. Bo Ram tells that she can't play without money. He tells her not to worry about it as he will sort it out. At that moment, Yoon starts knocking on the door. Mai Jin takes the phone from Bo Ram to tell Han that they have both given up and now it is his turn. She refuses to stay there and end up living in misery. Han tells her that he will call her later. Before opening the door to Yoon, he decides to hide the photos with his family. Yoon brings him something to eat. The food is delicious, but it is not made by Yoon. Han mentions that he hasn't eaten so delicious in a long time. After that, he notices a wound on her finger. She cut herself while working. Moments later, he asks her to sit down to change her bandage. She refuses, but he insists. Yoon has many cuts on her hand, but it's a job thing. Han tells Yoon that he admires her for all she does, as she works hard and supports her family. Yoon mentions that her mission in life is to take care of the family until she dies. Shortly after, she also notices Han's wound on his toe, so she returns the favor. Yoon asks him if he and Mai Jin haven't been separated for too long, then mentions that they should get back together. Han tells her that he and his wife have separated. Yoon asks him when, and he says it was when Bo Ram left. Yoon asks him if they will divorce, and he says yes. While drinking coffee, Yoon mentions that the coffee is better at her coffee shop. Han tells her again to go to Mokpo. She replies that he is still married even though they are separated, so it is not good for them to go alone. She asks him if he doesn't see her as a woman. He replies that he does see her as one, and then tells her that she is beautiful and admirable. She reminds him that he has been the only man she has ever liked and that the time they kissed was her first kiss. Han tells her that if she won't go with him, he will go alone. The next morning, we see the old woman from the beginning, who we now know as Dong's mother. She is Kang. Kang waits for Yoon to come for her. Inside the car was also Chun Hui. Yoon tells them both that next time they go to the market, they shouldn't leave so early. Later we see things at the market, everyone working at their respective stalls. At one point, Yoon gets angry with Kwon because he is charging Kang and Hyun for food. Yoon starts selling fish together with Jeong and Yeon. Then we see that Dong also goes to the market and orders a coffee, but his mother is right there, but he passes her by. After that we see that they bring the food to Kang and Chun Hui and don't charge them for it. Chun Hui tells her that Dong is there, but she doesn't seem to be too interested. As for Dong, we see that he is selling outside the market. He is doing relatively well. As Yoon cut the fish, memories of the moment she kissed Han flooded her mind, as well as the moments they spent recently, and at that moment, she sends Han a message to tell him that she will go to Mokpo with him, but as friends. Mayung tells Han that Yoon has attributed 90 million from another bank and deposited it in SS, so Mayung wants Han to take credit for it. At the moment Han leaves, Mayung calls Hyung Sik to ask him with some embarrassment if Han had borrowed money from him. While in the car, Han receives a video call from Mai Jin, but he decides not to answer it, and he removes that little key ring from his car. Then he meets Yoon and they get ready to go on a trip. So now we see them together, enjoying the sea view. Han notices that she starts coughing, so he takes off his jacket to cover her from the cold. Han mentions that he is happy to come, to which she asks him if he has ever been to Mokpo after that excursion. He answers yes, as the company's training center is there. As for Yoon, she has never had the time to go back. Besides, she thought she would be sad if she went back, because those days were the best days of her youth. She mentions that her mother died shortly after the excursion from heat stroke while working on the farm, so she dropped out of school and started selling fish. And she is sorry she didn't graduate with them, so technically she shouldn't go to the parties they organize, but she is always invited. Han tells her that she is a very strong woman and thanks her. She also thanks him for still being so good, as she believes that if he had come back a mess, her heart would have been broken because the memories of her youth would be tainted. So she thanks him for maturing in that way and allowing her to keep those memories intact. What she doesn't know is that Han's life is a mess right now. Moments later, she teaches him her favorite song and they listen to it together. Now we see Young in her room alone. She receives a call and decides to ignore it. But when she approaches the phone, it is full of "I miss you" messages, to which she replies saying that she will go next month. This does not not please the person behind those messages at all as he starts asking her more questions. She gives him a specific day when she will go, but this person only replies insulting her. Back at the market, we see Han-suk asking Gwon for a glass of soju. She soon after starts complaining about her brother Han. Then we see Yoon, who while working, continues to think strongly about Han, to the point that she can't concentrate well. Young notices that she is nervous. Even Jeong notices. Although Yoon denies it, Young approaches her and asks her to tell her as she can't fool her. Yoon tells her that she is going to Mokpo. Young immediately realizes that it will be with Han, but Yoon tells her that he is now separated. After that, she starts joking with Yoon that she will lose her virginity at last. Back with Han-suk, she keeps complaining. Since her father died, she and Han-yeon worked too hard to pay for Han's studies, while he has not thanked them and only concentrates on his daughter and wife. Gwon tells her that if Bo-ram achieves the goal, it will benefit them all, but Han-suk would just like Han not to ask for money after selling his house, so talking about it, Gwon asks her how much money Han has asked for. From there we go back to Yoon, who is preparing food for Young and her friends, Da-lai and Byul, who is Da-lai's sister and is also deaf. Yoon's dream was to be a singer. At that moment, Young starts joking again that Yoon would have her first time soon. Yoon tells her to respect, but Young keeps joking, so Yoon chases her back and forth while Da-lai and Byul also joked. From there we go to the market, where this guy approaches Ho-sik to ask him who was the man who was with Yoon at the auction that time. The guy thinks that Han is her boyfriend, but Ho-sik tells him that he is just a friend from high school. At that moment, Ho-sik calls Yoon to ask her why she took Han to the auction, since in the market it is rumored that they are boyfriend and girlfriend. Ho-sik scolds her that she shouldn't go around with a married man. After Yoon hangs up, a guy approaches Ho-sik to ask why Yoon didn't come to today's auction. Ho-sik doesn't understand anything, as she had told him she was nearby, so realizing that, he calls her again but she ignores him, as she already met Han. On the trip to Mokpo, they both start talking. Han already found out that some time ago Yoon and Ho-sik were dating, but that was more than 20 years ago. Han says he found this out at the party. Yoon complains that the local people are quite gossipy. After that we see that Yoon is a bit nervous, so she starts eating to calm down a bit. When they eat snacks, she cleans his mouth but making it clear that she was just removing the crumbs as a friend, but Han does the same shortly after. Back at the market, Ho-sik tries to find out where Yoon went. Yoon replies that she has gone to Mokpo with a friend. Gwon intervenes and moments later calls Jeong to find out where Yoon is. He only knows that she went on a trip, but he doesn't know with whom. Ho-sik and Gwon start arguing as usual. Moments later, Mayan calls Gwon to meet him. Ho-sik signs up to go as well. Although they argue, Gwon tells him address and place to meet Mayan. Back with these two, Ho-sik calls Yoon again. She thinks he is calling her to ask for money again. Yoon says she is fed up with her friends always asking her for money. At that moment, Han gets nervous. Yoon tells Han if he remembers that her dream was to be a singer. He remembers and tells her that he always loved to hear her sing. Yoon is happy, because now that she is with Han, she can talk about that dream she had when she was young. As for Han, his dream was to be a basketball player. He never really liked studying, but he didn't even try to follow his dream because his family was poor and he was the eldest. Yoon says that being poor sucks, but at least they are not poor now. But every word she said affected Han more. Then she starts sneezing, so Han makes a stop to go to the pharmacy. Later, when they were on the cable car, she began to tell him about her affair with Ho-sik. She had feelings for him. But once she went to visit his family, his grandparents were bedridden and his 3 sisters were working on a farm. When Yoon returned home, she felt bad and did not feel able to stay in the relationship, as she thought she would also have to support Ho-sik's family, although they never asked her for anything. But she felt a great burden. Soon after she broke up with him because she is fed up with being poor and if she stayed with him she would stay poor. Ho-sik went through a rough patch after that, but Yoon learned that she didn't care about love, only money. After that, she asks Han why he took his mother to Seoul without saying anything. That felt terrible to everyone. Han was ashamed. He feels he betrayed his mother, brothers, and father, even Yoon and the others. He apologizes to her. Yoon tells him that these things happen, then tries to calm things down by showing him a nice view. Soon after they finally arrive at Mokpo. The place is quite changed. Then they look at a cotton candy stall, so Han goes to buy one. At that moment, a boy bumps into her and Yoon starts to remember those good times. Yoon starts walking until she reaches the stairs where she kissed Han. At that moment, Han approaches her with the cotton candy and mentions that this specific place is still exactly the same. Yoon mentions with nostalgia how young they were back then and then they start walking. She mentions that they can finally eat one each, since back then it was only 2 cotton candy for 5 people. Han grabs Yoon by the shoulder. He asks her if she has a problem with this. She asks him keep it, as they are friends anyway. From there we go back to Gwon and Ho-sik, who meet Mayung. They both argue to see who will open the door, but Mayung beats them to it. We see now that Yoon and Han are sitting watching some boys playing basketball while talking about their failures in love. Yoon is suspicious of the people who ask her for a date, as she doesn't know if they are good people or just want money. Han, while playing basketball, tells her that he split up with his wife because he behaved badly. After that, he asks her to sing while they play basketball and he lifts her up to score a point. There he gets a call from Mi-jin but decides to ignore it. Now back to these three. Gwon asks Myung if Han has asked him and his sister for money. Ho-sik is surprised to hear this. Han takes Yoon to a luxurious hotel, although separate rooms. Yoon was already nervous. When they enter the room, they have a great view. And Yoon realizes that this hotel is in the same place where they stayed on the excursion. Before this was a hostel. She gets sad because they threw away the place to build this. She mentions that it's too fancy a place, but it's also her first time in a place like this. Besides, it's a big occasion. Yoon walks around the room. Then Han goes to the supermarket to buy something to drink, and when Yoon is left alone, she starts to think about what might happen, nervous because she thinks that she and Han will do it. Next, she gets a call from Ho-sik. She angrily answers. Gwon takes the phone and puts it on speaker for everyone to hear. They already know she is with Han. Ho-sik asks her what she is doing traveling alone with a married man. Yoon tells him that Han separated from his wife 7 years ago. Young tells them to take the phone off speaker because there are too many people. At that moment, Young gets angry with them and leaves. Gwon asks Myung if it's true about the divorce, so he makes a call to Hyung-sik to make sure. Han returns because he forgot his wallet. But when Yoon gives it to him, she throws the key ring from before on the floor. Then she receives some messages that are proof that Han and his wife are not separated. In the midst of this drama, Young finds herself faced with her own troubles as she answers a call from her partner, attempting to quell his obvious insecurities through constantly reminding him that their love is not one-sided. Jong is looking at her. As Han returns, he receives a call from Bo Ram, so he goes into his room to answer her. She is clear and tells him that she wants to quit golf because she is unhappy and wants to return to Seoul. While Han wonders painfully why she is unhappy after all his efforts, when he is confronted once again by Mi-jin, who also has a wound in her mouth, Han looks defeated and angry, so he ends the call by throwing his phone and breaking down. Then Han looks in the mirror to try to rehearse how he will ask Yoon for money. On the other hand, Yoon receives another call from Ho-sik, who tells her that Han is lying to her just to ask her for money, as he has already done with other people. Yoon asks them what Han needs the money for. They tell her that it is for Bo Ram's golf race. Then Han arrives in the room, and even though she realizes everything, that does not stop her from drinking with Han. While drinking wine, she takes the opportunity to confront Han, as she remembers the nice times they have had and it all falls apart. She asks him what they will do now. Han looks very nervous, until she confronts him and asks him if he wants her to give her money. Yoon asks him to what extent everything is a lie, as she is aware of everything and shows him the proof, claiming that Jeju is not Seoul and people here know everything. Yoon tells him that he has underestimated all his friends, and clarifies that if he wanted money, he should just ask for it. There was no need to make all this up and say that he was separated from his wife and that he was getting divorced. Han tells her that it wasn't all a lie, as this trip means a lot to him. She gets angry and hits him and then asks him if he really considers her a friend. She claims that he only used her for her feelings. Han doesn't deny it. He says that he was going to use her if he had the chance because he didn't want Bo Ram to give up her dream for money like he did. Because he knows what it feels like to live without dreams. Yoon starts to cry and says that she has lost a lifelong friend. Then she goes to clean her face in the bathroom, and when she comes back, she finds Han's key ring with his family, so she gives it to him. After that, Yoon asks him to leave, so Han does so, but not before telling her that the reason he didn't ask her for money earlier is because he felt she had no desire to live, since she does nothing but work cutting fish to support her younger brothers, and Han didn't want to spoil the good memories she had of him. But despite that, he apologizes to her and then leaves. Han gets in his car and drives back to Jeju, while Yoon stays there. Then she gets a call from Ho-sik. He asks her if she lent Han money. She says no, but also reminds them that both he and Gwon are always asking her for money, so why can't she lend Han money? Ho-sik tells her that Han lied to her and friends don't do that, but Yoon defends him that maybe he had a reason to do that. Yoon complains to both of them and tells them that they don't seem to be Han's friends, as Hyung-sik made up the excuse of his wife not to lend Han money even though he could have done it, and then goes around telling about it. While another one did lend him money but charged him 20% interest, too usurious, and while Ho-sik and Gwon only investigated to dig up dirt on him. They tell Yoon that they care more about her than Han. She asks if that's because she has money. Gwon gets angry because he recognizes that Yoon is right. Yoon tells Ho-sik that neither of them have the right to call each other Han's friend. Even now they are talking behind his back. Yoon feels pretty bad, but from there we see Han again, who gets a call from Mi-jin. She tells him that they are already at the airport to go to Seoul. Han is no longer angry. In fact, he is relieved. But he is afraid that Bo Ram will end up resenting them. Mi-jin tells him that it is possible to change his mind, so it is better to believe her when she says she doesn't want to play golf anymore, as things can stop making you happy. Mi-jin tells Han that he has done everything he could, so he must feel good. He acknowledges that she has also suffered a lot. The next day, we see Han preparing his resignation letter. He tells Myung that he will explain everything over the phone. So Han leaves the bank where he worked for so long. As he gets into his car, he receives a message from Yoon. She deposited 200 million, claiming that there are always losses in the business and she will take this as such. Now we see Yoon, who is on her way back to Jeju on the boat. She returns home and goes on with her life, until she receives a notification that Han has returned the 200 million. He knows that she always gives more than she receives and doesn't want her to do the same to him, although she thanks him for the gesture. Han is reunited with his family at the airport after 7 long years. He immediately decides to take them on a trip. He has been paid his severance pay. That's money to pay off debts, but they can afford a poor trip now. Han tells Yoon that he doesn't know how he will make a living now, but while he is traveling, he will think about what he will work on. But when things get bad, he will think about her and his other friends in Jeju. That will give him strength, and the next time they see each other, they can go to drink soju on the beach. Altogether, he will invite, while waiting for Yoon to be there to sing something. Texting back to emotional Han, Yoon expresses her best wishes for her first love to be taken care of, then takes out a blank sheet of paper to write "My eternal first love, Han, goodbye." Then starts singing while drinking in front of the TV, remembering Han's brief and unexpected return to Jeju, while he is with his family celebrating the reunion and fixing their problems to get back together. But it is time to look at Seona again. She is now married and has a child, but she does not seem to be doing well. Her husband wakes her up to get up, as he has to go to work. What happens with her is that she is showing clear symptoms of a strong depression, to the point where she finds it hard to do even something that may seem as simple as getting out of bed. After that, she feeds her son. It's time for her husband to go to work, so he says she should clean the house when he leaves. She replies that she has cleaned everything, but he shows her this messy room and this one, claiming that even Yeol's uniform and his smell bad. Seona tells him that if it bothers him so much, he should clean it himself, as she shouldn't do everything. But he replies that he works every day, and he says that even her hygiene is bad. He tells her to hurry up and go to the doctor, as according to him depression can be cured, so he tells her to take medication and go to a psychologist. Yeol tells them both not to argue. He tells Seona that they have a child and asks her to at least show a will to live. After that, she completely loses track of time when she goes into the bathroom to take a bath and put on her makeup. As we see her husband and Yeol arrive home, she asks him what he is doing there so early, to which he replies that he had to leave work to pick up Yeol, as he was called from the nursery because Seona wasn't coming to pick him up and didn't answer the phone either. She realizes that she has been in the bathroom all day. This girl clearly needs help, as she is also losing her family. But we go back to Jeju Island, this time with Young. She is at the disco drinking and drunk. Captain B is with her and tries to get too close after they leave. He tells Young that they will stay at a motel that night, as he says he is too drunk to go home. She says yes without thinking too much, but it is obvious she doesn't want to go there. B continues to be a pain. They start to move once the driver arrives to drive B's car. He starts to realize that they are not going to the motel, but Young tells him that they are. B knows she is lying, as they are heading home, so he starts to insist that they go to the motel, to which she starts to change the subject of the conversation. Now we see Jong, who is driving and almost hits the car where B and Young are driving. When he gets to his truck, he starts to think that Young is with B and decides to go to see her to make sure everything is okay. So he goes to her house. There he finds B insisting to Young that they go to the motel, since she had promised him, but Young just wants to pass him to go to sleep. B continues to insist and tells her that she even told him that she loved him, but that never happened, as he was the one saying that. Young tells him to go home, as they are neighbors and make a fuss. So seeing this, Jong intervenes to tell B to leave because he is making her uncomfortable. Young likes to party with him, but not this. B continues to insist that they should spend the night in a motel. Young admits that she remembers everything she told him, but she doesn't really want anything to do with him. She told him that because he kept insisting. Jeong tells B that now that he knows it's all a lie, he should leave, at which point, B accuses Young of being a compulsive liar. She says she is and leaves. B plans to follow her, but Jeong gets in the way to tell him to go away. B has no choice but to leave. Jeong tells him not to drive drunk, but B doesn't care and does it anyway, but Jeong is no fool. So he calls the police to rat him out and say that B is driving drunk, claiming that safety comes first. Plus, he sits in front of Yoon and Young's house. She peeks in shortly afterwards to ask him why he stayed there. He replies that it is in case B comes back. She asks him if he cares about her and likes her, again claiming that she does not recommend it, as in that case he would suffer because she is sure she will hurt him. Inside the house, Young finds it hard to concentrate, so instead of scrolling messages, she decides to peek out to tell Jeon to go for a walk. He agrees immediately, so they go for a walk. On the way they see an orange cat being an orange cat. After that, she asks him why Jeong went to her house. She insists on knowing why Jeong was going to her house in the middle of the night. He smiles and tells her that he saw her in the car with B, so he went to her house because he was worried. She asks him why he was worried and then stops to ask him again if he likes her. Seconds later, she approaches him and starts guessing his height, coming to the conclusion that he is 6'12". Jeong asks her how she noticed that. She says she has a good eye, but also her ex-boyfriend was just as tall, so she starts talking about him. Her ex-boyfriend, like Jeong, has a Jun in his name. Besides, she says that apart from that, they also look a bit alike. Young starts to talk a bit about her. She moved 2 years ago to Jeju. Her ex-boyfriend was a shoemaker and she was his assistant. She mentions that he sang well and could play the guitar. So she asks Young if he can do any of that, to which he says no. Young says she is confused, as the ex who sang and played the guitar was someone else and not the one she had mentioned at first. This ex of hers turned into someone else when he drank. He never hit her, nor another woman, but he always fought with men when he was drunk. One day he got into a fight with a man. Young called the police and left that city. She asks Young if he has always lived in Jeju. He says yes, while she has lived in several different cities, many, in fact. Young asks her why she moves so much. She replies that sometimes for work, sometimes for love and breakups. When Young asks Young about his past relationships, he draws a blank and not only doesn't answer, but says they should get back together now. Back in his truck house, Jeong writes on a mirror wondering how many men Young has dated. He also wonders if he could love a woman who has had so many relationships. And finally, he wonders what he should do now, answering that he should stop fooling around and take the plunge. The next morning, we see that Young is in a grocery shop, where he is spoken to by this lady, who tells her that her nephew is famous for his talent for drawing. While Young tells her that her mother said that the boy had no talent. After she finishes paying, Young tells the lady that she doesn't think his nephew is smart enough to get into a prestigious university, and then leaves. The lady asks if Young's mother really paints and demands to see some of her work. Now we see a little of Yoon, who is in her truck and makes a short stop to greet the old ladies and also Young and Young. She nags Yoon to greet her elders. She also tells her that she should lower her skirt more, so she has no choice but to listen to her, mentioning that she is angry that Yoon thinks she is her mother. After that, they both get on the bus, where shortly after, Young tells him that she is not getting her period. So Young is surprised, since they have something, but she tells him not to look at her so much because there are a lot of people around. Young tells him to prepare money just in case. After that, we see the group of old ladies waiting to be picked up by Young to go diving. They complain that Young only keeps telling lies. The lady in the shop was told that her mother painted. One of them was told that her parents had a shop in another city, and another of them was told that she had no parents. This lady is fed up with Young as she has lied to all of them. She asks Chun Hui what Young has told her and tells her that she should be fired as a diver because she can't stand lying people, and that she keeps flirting with everyone. And talking about Young, soon after she arrives and apologizes for being late, to which the lady reproaches her for always being late and making excuses. When getting into the car, Young receives a call but does not answer. The lady again says that Young is always being called, even when she is at sea. So she talks for the sake of talking and says that maybe she has a husband on the mainland. Young asks Chun Hui if she has slept well, but does not receive an answer. From there we go to the boat, where they are all getting ready to dive. Young greets Jeong, but assumes he is angry. From there we go to the pharmacy, because Young is looking for a pregnancy test, but she tells him not to take it because Seon Mai is there. When they go to pay, more students arrive. They notice that Young has a packet of sanitary towels. Young immediately takes it from him and tells them that she asked for it. The girls assume that this is bullying as she is the delegate. They think she is treating Young like a servant. He tells them all that it is not their problem and to leave. Young says the B word to the girl, and when she turns around, Kwon was there and asks her who she was talking to like that. The girls take the opportunity to tell him that Young always insults them and uses Young as a servant. Kwon turns to his son and asks him if he is Young's servant, but Young just passes him by. When they both leave, he warns Young not to take advantage of Young and tells Young to be a man. Shortly after, Ho-sik goes to the shop too. The girls want to take advantage of him to buy things for them. He seems to agree, but when he is about to pay, he says he has no money and that Kwon will pay for everything. Back with these two, Young tells her that he will buy her the pregnancy test later and asks her not to miss classes. From there we go to the sea. All of them have returned to the surface after diving, but then they notice that someone is missing. Young has not returned. This causes concern for everyone, as they don't even see her boy. One of the old women assumes that she has gone further out to catch more fish. Not knowing quite what to do and with the sea rough, Jeong takes the loudspeaker to call Young in the hope that she will listen and come out, so they all start calling out to her. Jeong contacts the Coast Guard to make them aware that one of the divers is lost, but rest assured, she is fine, as we later see that she is safe and sound. This old woman claims to her that they had all left and she stayed much longer just because she wanted to collect more balloon. She claims to her that they are all old women and staying longer than necessary can make them sick, clarifying that it is crucial for the divers to work as a team. Then coughs and blames Young. This girl tells Young to just apologize, so she does, but they notice that it is not a sincere apology. So they tell Chun Hui that she should be kicked out of the divers. Chun Hui says nothing because she knows that Young is insolent and disobedient, and acknowledges that they should not have put an outsider to work with them, calling her an outsider since she comes from another city. Not all of them agreed to let an outsider join the group of divers, but they had no choice because they have to carry on the tradition. Chun Hui says it doesn't matter if there are no more divers, because it's not like they are national treasure. Chun Hui tells them all not to talk to Young as they want her to have decency and leave of her own free will. The old women leave after talking trash about Young and make it clear that she must apologize if she wants to return to work with them. Young says she doesn't want to apologize because she doesn't think she has done anything wrong. This girl makes it clear to her that what Young did was dangerous, as 1 or 2 minutes at sea is a matter of life and death. Young tries to say that it took too long because her boy moved, but the girl knows that this was on purpose to catch more balloon. The angry girl tells her that they were all willing to dive into the sea to save her, but Young tells her that no one did, not even her. The girl is still angry and tells her that they must work as a team if they want to be part of the divers. Before leaving, she tells her that if she does not apologize to Chun Hui, she will no longer be her friend. We go back to John, who bumps into the useless bee. He is still angry about what happened the day before. He also complains to him because he knows that it was Jiang who accused him of drunk driving. And because of this, his driving license was taken away. Jiang tells him to respect the law and not to drive drunk, and that's it. As he is about to leave, B brings up the subject of Young and asks him if she was flirting with him. Jiang turns away. B tells him that if that is the case, he should come to his senses, as Young is all about flirting and taking money from men. Jiang didn't like to hear this and shoves B's foot to make him fall. This causes him to get angry and the two start fighting. But Ho-sik steps in to talk some sense into B, because if those two fight, B will get beaten up. Ho-sik tries to talk some sense into him, but B claims that he used to be a good fighter, but he still has no choice but to leave so Jiang doesn't kick his ass. After that, Ho-sik speaks for him to tell him that he shouldn't behave that way because he is a good person, and he shouldn't ruin the image they have of him. He also asks him what is going on with Young and if they are in a love triangle. If so, Ho-sik tells Jiang to promise him that he will win. That's why Jiang gets into his car determined, so he prepares to call Young to meet her in the evening. As for Young, she is watching Chun Hui, thinking about whether she should apologize. At that moment, she gets a call from Jiang, who invites her out. He asks her where she wants to go. She replies that she wants to go to his bus, as she has never been inside, so said and done, they arrange to meet there. Kang asks Chun Hui how long she is going to wait for Young, to which she replies to ignore her and keep eating. Moments later, Young finally takes the initiative and approaches them both to apologize. Seeing that Chun Hui was ignoring her, Kang tells Young that Chun Hui will keep ignoring her until she gets over her anger. Young apologizes again, claiming that this time she will follow the rules and that she will go through them the next day. But Chun Hui tells her not to bother and starts to get in her face about all the times she lied to the others, so Young ends up leaving. Just like Kang, who on the way finds some lavender flowers and a little dog. In the evening, Jiang arrives home from work and waits to meet Young. When he gets out of his car and goes to the bus, Young gives him a fright because she had been waiting for him for a while. He replies that he had been working late. Young is impressed to see the inside of the bus, saying that it looks like an artist's house. He gives her something to drink, then asks her if she likes Jeju. She replies that she doesn't like Jeju as much as he does, but enough to stay and live there. Then Jiang asks her if she likes B and also why she told him about her past relationships on that occasion. Jiang assumes that she did this because she wanted him to leave her alone, but Young tells her that's not the case. As for B, she knows he has feelings for her, but it's not mutual. In fact, she now dislikes him. Next, it's time for her to ask questions, and she notices the questions Jiang wrote on the mirror and realized that it was for her. The first question, how many men she has been with, she passes on answering. The next is whether he could love a woman who has had so many relationships. He already has an answer, yes he could. And the last question, the answer to which is to cut the crap and take the plunge. So Jiang immediately tells her that he wants to be with her. Young reminds him again that she will make him suffer, to which he replies to try to avoid it and stop insisting on it. Jiang asks her if she needs time, she says no, and then goes up to him to kiss him. Now we see Kang. She gets a visit from Gwon early in the morning. He brings her some food. Kang thanks Gwon for the food and hopes life goes well for him and Young. He replies that he hopes Young doesn't end up selling Sunday like him. Later on, while shredding the chicken, some puppies come for some food, so Kang feeds them. Later, we see her with her more common expression, then she picks up the phone to call her son, Dong. He doesn't hear the phone, as he was out of his car and enters just as the call stops ringing. Later, Dong starts working on putting up an antenna, then he receives a call from Kang. This time he notices it, although with an annoyed face, he ends up answering it. We see that Kang is in the hospital, but she doesn't dare say anything else to Dong other than to ask him if he has eaten. He gets angry because he thinks it's a silly question, and according to him, she never cared if he has eaten or not, so he thinks he made a mistake and actually wanted to call his other sons. We see that it is Kang's turn to consult, at which point, she puts the phone aside, unable to say anything more to Dong, who gets angry because he thinks she called him for nothing. After that, the old women feed Dong and apologize to him for buying from the other truck, claiming that they will not buy from anyone else but him from now on. Back with Kang, the doctor had told her to go to the consultation with Dong this time, so that's why she was calling him. But that's not all. We learn that she has cancer and it has spread to her lungs and liver. The doctor tells her to consider chemotherapy and warns her that at that rate, things could get ugly in no time. Kang just asks him for something to make her digestion better. From there we go with Young, who has gone for a run to clear her mind. She does this whenever she feels the island is overwhelming her. She runs to the end of Jeju Island, where she has no choice but to stop. She hates the island. On top of that, a seagull poops on her. Seeing the people from the capital, she can't understand how they come to Jeju so happily, as she thinks Seoul is more fun. After that, she went to the market to buy some things. She was greeting everyone, as almost everyone knows her. This also annoys her, so it's another reason to want to run away from Jeju. She spends all day greeting. She's fed up with it. Young arrives at Kang and Chunhyui's stall to buy seaweed and sweet potatoes, as her father told her it was the best place. Kang tells Young that she has grown up a lot. She replies that it is impossible. As they met relatively recently, those three old ladies took care of her from time to time when Young was a baby. That added to the way they behave with her, so Young likes them a little bit. After that, Yoon arrives and tells Young that she should wear more appropriate clothes so as not to show too much. Moments later, Dong shows up to ask his mother why she was calling him, as there must be a reason. However, he speaks to her in a very ugly way and Yoon lets him know. Kang tells him that she called him for nothing. This makes Dong angrier, as they don't get along well enough to call each other for nothing. Yoon intervenes to tell him to stop being a jerk to his mother just because of a phone call, but Dong makes it clear to Kang that he shouldn't call him anymore because they have no relationship. The only time he will accept a call from Kang is if she is about to die. Yoon takes Dong away so he won't keep talking trash in front of his mother. She tells him he really needs to stop behaving like that. Kang is almost 80 years old. She uses her mother as an example. When her father died, her mother broke things and drank non-stop until she died of heat stroke on the farm, but she never hated her. Dong is happy for Yoon, but he recognizes that he is ungrateful and wants to make life miserable for Kang because she ended up marrying the man Dong hated the most, who was also a friend of his father's. Yoon gives up and doesn't speak to him anymore, as she knows Dong will regret it when his mother dies. Back with Yoon, she continues shopping until she walks past Gwon's shop. He asks her if she still smokes and starts saying everything out loud. He found her smoking at school and Ho-sik went berserk. After that, Yoon meets Young and says the only thing she doesn't find boring about the island is him. He's the only person who stimulates her on Jeju, but she thinks she's gone too far with him. As for Yoon, he approaches his father to ask for money. Gwon asks him what he spends so much on, and tells him to take money from the pot, so Yoon does so, but takes more money than he said he needed. He thinks he had been caught by his father, but Gwon was just showing off to a client, even though he says he is second best in the class to Yoon. After that, we see Ho-sik preparing food. He is waiting for one more year to pass, as Young will go to university and he will be free. While thinking about that, he starts singing. At that moment, Young comes home and looks at her father's torn underwear and socks and tells him that he should change them, to which he replies that he will do it when she goes to university. Young bought everything he asked for and wants to give her a kiss on the cheek, but she passes him by. Young goes to the bathroom and Ho-sik comes in unexpectedly without knocking to ask her what she prefers to eat and to tell her not to use so much toothpaste, but she ignores him. After brushing her hair, Young prepares to finally take a pregnancy test to find out for sure, but as luck would have it, the test ends up being positive. She thinks that she was planning to leave Jeju when she turns 20, but now that doesn't seem to be possible. From there we go to the school. Young watches as Young laughs with her friends, then approaches her to ask her if they can talk, to which she says no. After that, we see that she takes out a golf ball and starts to move it with her foot. One of her friends notices that her breasts and belly are bigger, then she invites her to karaoke, but Young refuses. Young keeps watching her, until a boy arrives and takes him out of the room to borrow money. When Young returns to the room, Young lets go of the golf ball and he takes it, confused because he doesn't know what it is for. Then the teacher arrives. Later, Young asks Young what the golf ball is for. She tells him it's not his business. Young tells her to stop avoiding him, at which point, Young reveals to him that all 3 pregnancy tests she took were positive, so she is pregnant, but she plans to have an abortion. Young is stunned to find out. She complains that everything is unfair, since they only slept together 2 times, and with protection, Young apologizes to her. Young asks for money, so Young gives her 530,000 won and his mom's rings, which Gwon doesn't know. Young says that abortion is not legal yet, so the insurance doesn't cover it. Young tells her that they should think things through, but she says it's her body, so she'll decide. Young stands in her way to tell her that if she thinks about having an abortion, he'll look for the safest way, and if she decides to have it, he'll support her. But Young tells him to be realistic and that it's not worth giving up everything for a baby. Young tells him that if their parents find out, Gwon will kill Young and Ho-sik would take his own life so as not to hurt Young. So if Young doesn't want that to happen, Young tells him to keep quiet. After that, we see that she's going to sell the rings Young gave her. The guy asks her if she has her parents' permission, otherwise he'll pay her only 200k for everything. The guy tells her to take it or leave it, so she storms off, but comes back moments later with a final offer that the guy ends up accepting. Next, we see Young buy some abortion pills and Young was just passing by, so they sit down together. He asks her how much she was paid for the rings and then asks her if she will really have an abortion. So he gives her the pills, which can be taken up to 12 weeks. Young tells her that instead of going to the academy, they should spend time together that day, but she refuses. Young goes back and accuses Young of using cheap condoms, then asks him if he won't go to the academy. He says no, since the money he gave her was the money he would use to go. On the way to the academy, Young calls a doctor to schedule the day she will have an abortion. The doctor asks her if she is sure she is only 3 months pregnant. After that, she asks the doctor about the pills Young gave her earlier. She replies that they are fake pills and 100% harmful. Classes at the academy could go on as normal until she complained loudly about the pain. The pain only increased, making it impossible for her to concentrate the next day at school. Specifically in sports class, she was still in severe pain. Young stood behind her and asked her if she had taken the pills. She replied that the nurse had told her they were no good. It's not long before Young's turn to jump and the pain gets worse. When it's her turn, she still tries, but she is unable to jump. The teacher notices her discomfort. She tells her that she has gastroenteritis and must go home, so the teacher leaves her. Then Young does his jump and then goes after Young. She tells him that she read that her belly can hurt if the baby kicks. Young decides to go to the hospital right now. Young wants to accompany her, but she refuses as that way it would spread the rumor. Young tells her that it is not right for her to go alone and that it will hurt a lot. But she replies that she should hurry as the more the baby grows, the more dangerous the abortion will be for both of them. Young tells her to look for a good hospital instead of going anywhere. She tells him that if he really cares, to move aside. Then another student arrives, who starts laughing at Young. Young doesn't mess around and punches him in the face to make him respect. From there we go to the hospital, where Young went incognito, more or less, but to her bad luck, Yoon was also there and saw her. Yoon is there because she had an appointment with a client nearby and also reveals that she is menopausal. Yoon asks Young what she is doing there. She replies that she has an irregular period. Yoon believes her and wants to accompany her inside, but Young tells her that she is fine on her own. Yoon thinks that if her period is irregular, it is because she does not eat well. Young enters the consulting room, where she is greeted by a very unfriendly gynecologist, after which she undergoes an ultrasound scan, where the gynecologist realizes that she is not 3 months pregnant as she had said, but 6 months. The gynecologist tells her that the abortion must be induced, but warns her that she will bleed too much. She asks the gynecologist what previous placenta is. He tells her to look on the internet and to bring her parents' consent. She complains that abortion is no longer illegal, so no one else's consent is needed. But the gynecologist tells her that if she does not bring the consent, she should find another doctor. He also gives her the phone number of a psychologist in case she needs help. When she is about to leave, Young complains that the gynecologist treats her like a child. He responds and tells her that it's her fault for not knowing how to use protection properly. After that, Young asks the gynecologist if he can't just operate, and that's it. After that, we see a flashback of Young with Young, where she asks him why he likes the sea. She doesn't like the Jeju Sea at all, and there she reveals to him that she wanted to leave after she turns 20. Young is in the same place, thinking about Young. He is in love with her, but she doesn't believe in love and gives the example of his parents. She has learned one thing from her parents: love doesn't exist. In the end, her mother abandoned them, just like Young's mother. The point is that she believes that their feelings will fade with time, but Young says that maybe their case is different. Concerned, Young texts Yoon to find out how she is doing and where she is. After that, we see Ho Sik, who at the market meets Yoon, and she tells him that she has seen Young at the gynecologist. He is surprised by this. At night, Young puts on a girdle so that her pregnancy is not noticeable, then answers Young's messages and tells him that she is 6 months pregnant and cannot be operated on without her father's consent. Young tells her that they should think about it. She refuses. Then he calls her and tells her that this baby is also his. Young doesn't like him referring to it as a baby because it makes her feel bad and guilty. Moments later, Ho Sik enters her room to ask her why she is wearing that girdle and why she was at the gynecologist, as Yoon also told him what Young had told her, that her period was irregular. She says that this is normal and refuses to talk about menstruation with him. Ho Sik doesn't really suspect anything and just goes to cook. Meanwhile, Young was looking for help on the internet to find out all about abortion and whether it was painful, telling his case so that someone would answer his question. Meanwhile, Young began to vomit. After a moment, Young gets an answer to his question. At first it looked like something nice, but it turned out to be a person trying to sell him abortion pills. Later, Young tells him that she has vomited and that she keeps her feet up for the swelling. She massages the sole of her foot with the golf ball. That's why she used it before too, as she read on the internet that doing that can cause contractions and provoke a miscarriage. She wants the baby to disappear without anyone knowing. Young can't resist the urge to cry. She then tells him that a friend has told her that there is a hospital that allows abortions past 20 weeks. Young asks her if this is too hard for her and if she is upset. She says yes. Young tells him that she will go to that hospital in the morning, but makes it clear that she wants to go alone. The night passed and Young could not sleep at all, until finally dawn breaks and he starts to think about what the abortion process would be like. Thinking about this, he gets up immediately and gets dressed to leave, ignoring Gwon. Young rushes off to the hospital. On the way he calls Young. She replies that she is already at the bus stop. Young asks her which one. She tells him that when she returns, it will all be over. The bus arrives and Young gets on, while Young begs her to wait for him. Young starts to run while remembering the beautiful moments he had with her, but when he gets to the bus stop, Young had already left. So he decides to take a taxi. Young doesn't answer her phone anymore, plus he doesn't have enough money to pay the taxi, so he gets off early. Almost in the middle of nowhere, Young is still running around trying to get through to Young. She had already arrived at the hospital. Moments later, Young finally arrives. Young is very nervous. Finally, it's her turn to go in. Just then, Young arrives and tells her that they will go in together, stating that he is coming with her because he is the baby's father. The nurse gives Young an ultrasound scan and tells Young to come to the monitor to look. He holds her hand. The nurse shows them the baby's parts and tells them that the baby is healthy, so she also places his heartbeat. At that point, Young can't bear to hear the heartbeat and succumbs to fear, asking the nurse to stop because she didn't want to hear the baby's heartbeat. But we will see the conclusion of this matter in part 2, so much for this video. So guys, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe so that you don't miss any other recap.